Hey, hello everyone. Thanks a lot, Mihil. Thanks a lot for this. ठीक है. So hey guys, how is everyone doing? Hello everyone. Hello. So very quickly, first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to introduce myself. And before I do that, I would really like to get a few things in place. So yeah, hi guys. I'm Jatin Katyal. I'm a software developer and like I teach at Scalar, and I'm a software developer by profession. I've been software developer for a very long time now. I've written a lot of applications. I've worked with a lot of companies. So to name a few, I've worked with companies like Shuttle, if you have heard of it. So Shuttle was one of the companies that I worked with. It was again a great experience. It was a commute platform. I've worked with a company called previously called Spinny. I guess you might have heard of it. Again, it's a reselling platform. And obviously, then I worked with Scalar. And quite recently, I've been working with a company called Slash. And Slash is a very interesting finance application. And this is the one company that, I learned a lot of React at. So if you guys want to check out the React, all of these three companies used to have their code base in React. And a lot of these had a very common tech stack. So yep, this is what I'll be talking about now. And ठीक है. So very quick poll. I want to know कि who all here already know what React is. Who all very quickly tell me yes or no if you know what React is, and no if you don't. Are nice. You all do. You all do. Awesome. So let me just get a few things pretty straight. That first of all, this session would be an introduction to React. I'm expecting you guys to know the basics of HTML, the basics of CSS. Yep, that would be good. But this would be very basic introduction of React. And what you also do have to realize is that we are not going to talk about we are not going to code React a lot. We're going to understand React. We're going to try to look for what exactly React gives us. Why is React so famous, and why is React being used in a lot of companies? I just stated a few. I just before this masterclass in SlashPay, I was just pushing a code on React only. So that was one very interesting thing. So I guess with that expectation in mind, first of all, I would like to know, do you what do you think React is? Do you think React is a library or a framework? Very quickly on chat, is it a library or a framework? Library, framework. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you throughout the history. I'm going to take you throughout the developments of React, when React was introduced, why React was introduced, what were we were using before React. I guess the world was still working when React wasn't introduced. People were still going to moon. People were still doing a lot of things. React didn't change a lot of things, but it did change how the industry functioned. So to understand that, I guess each and every one of you must be comfortable with a language called HTML. Each and every one of you must be very comfortable with a language called HTML, because all you have to do is just create tags. You have to just say div, let's just say h1, write something, and it will be displayed on the browser. Correct? Everyone knows HTML. HTML is pretty simple. Sometimes we even say that if you know just HTML, you're not even a programmer, because again, pretty simple. So if we have to try this out, let's just see. What I'll do is let me just create a pretty simple HTML document. And let me just quickly open this up. So this is the plain old HTML that we all know of. And what we know is that can I just look at HTML in a little different way? For now, we always thought of HTML as a programming language, but now we're going to look at HTML in a little different fashion. That is HTML tell browser. The HTML tells browser how to structure the page. I guess we all have heard of it. Yes. My HTML code is ultimately the structure which dictates the browser how to display something. If I write something else here, my browser knows that I have to place this element after hello world. I have to place this element after hello world, and it should be a second heading. Correct? This is what we know about HTML, and pretty simple. We all understand this as well. But now let's look at it. From a browser's perspective. So now, whenever I'm writing pretty simple HTML, whenever I'm just executing writing some structure, what I'm essentially doing is I'm writing certain tags, something like div, something like p tag, something like maybe, another div. And inside this div, we might have a heading because we don't know how to structure or order these correctly. And lastly, this. Now, what I want you guys to understand is whenever we are looking at this HTML code, don't you think we can imagine it? As a tree? We know that div is where all of the elements live. I have created all of these elements, and I know that these elements live inside this div. So I can consider this to be a tree. Yes. So essentially, it would become div. Inside this tree, I might have a p tag. Then I might have another div tag. Then inside this, I have a h1 tag. Pretty simple. And guys, let me just tell you why this is important. I know this is pretty simple stuff. We all know what HTML is. We all know what DOM is. We all know what this tree is. Yes, we know this. But the point is, React as a library heavily made its API using these logic. The logic that we are discussing right now is the anchor point of where the React actually works. Okay, so that is why, just to reiterate this, just to get all of us in the same page, I know most of you are just amazing developers, but still, maybe I'm not. I just want to discuss this. So in that case, what I would say is, if we have a very simple HTML case, a very simple HTML program like this, I have multiple elements inside it. I can imagine this as a tree. Correct? Simple. Now, for every tree, I guess if I'm talking about a node in a tree, every node of a tree, I'm talking about this node. Every node in a tree would have three things. It would have a tag name, like what the name of the tag is. Correct. Second would be attributes. What are attributes? I guess you all must have seen, if I want to add a link to it, I guess we all have seen this. Google and HTTPS google.com. Cool. So now I have a pretty simple link which just clicks and opens the Google. Now, in this, I can see that I have added this extra information called href. Agreed? Yes. So now this extra information that I can provide to a tag are called attributes. Simple. In the end, I will have children. So I can define that all the elements, all the nodes that I have in HTML will have all of these three properties. Correct? Perfect. Now that we are on the same page, let's start with React. Are you guys ready? Finally? Perfect. So what we'll do is we'll be discussing a lot about a lot of the hype words, a lot of the words that we hear around. Like, there is tree shaking in the React, there is virtual DOM, there is React as a library, React has component architecture, so on, and React hooks. Oh my God. There are so many terminologies that to a normal person would just seem weirdly complex. Correct, right? Correct. So what we'll do is we'll just look at React from a very simple perspective. Now, I guess you all know that in HTML we can include JavaScript. We can include JavaScript and CSS. Agreed? Pretty simple. We can just go in the head. I can say a script tag, and I might be able to include JavaScript. I might say link CSS, and I will be able to import a CSS. Pretty simple. So what we'll do is I'll just go to my Google page because that is important. I will go search for React CDNs, and I will find this very, very interesting thing. In here, React has given me these two links, and if I just go to this link, you would see that this source code right here is the source code of React. The source code right here is the source code of React. The whole complexity around React, whatever React does is written right here in this JavaScript file. Not only this much, it is a very big file. Don't worry. But anyways, what I can essentially do is I can just copy these script files and paste them right here. So I guess each and every one of you have heard that React is a library, React controls a virtual DOM, React does this, React does that. But one thing that you have to understand, whenever I'm talking about a normal React application, I'm not talking about server-side rendering. I'm not talking about Next. I'm just talking about this very simple thing, React. Just this library. No dependencies, no nothing. Got it? Now, whenever I'm talking about React, how does this React work? It basically, in my HTML, I would have a div tag. In my HTML, I would have a div tag, and React would take this div tag. React would take this div tag and perform all the manipulations. Doesn't that sound weird to you? Like, it will take the div tag and perform all the manipulation. Don't you think it sounds weird to you? Correct. Let me play around for you guys a little. So what I will do is, when the moment JavaScript was invented, throughout the inception of JavaScript, we had this library called document.getElementById. We all can get a document using IDs. All have heard this. We can get a root node using class names. We can get an element using some IDs. So what I'm essentially doing is I'm getting this div tag. I'm trying to fetch this div tag, this div node from the DOM. This div tag is something that I'm getting right now. Now, if I just write this, nothing will be displayed here, since again, there is nothing written inside the HTML tag, yes or no? But using JavaScript, what I can do is, I can do something like this. Yes. Using JavaScript, what I did, if you just see the page source code, if you look at the page source code, you would see that there is no hello world. There is no hello world in this page source. My server never said to render hello world. But this JavaScript, when it executed in the browser, when the JavaScript executed in the browser, it actually rendered hello world. Understood? Simple. So we can see that browsers do these magic. Browsers can take elements as arguments. They can modify that elements. They can do a lot of these things. Understood? Now, what we would essentially do is, if we are talking about React, let me just start with dynamic rendering. This is the source code that we just wrote. Yes or no? Now, whenever we are talking about React, in React, we do something like this. So guys, let me move on here. Is this clear? Just tell me yes or no. Is this clear that React is the one which is dynamically creating and deleting elements? It is React who is dynamically creating and deleting elements. The JavaScript is executing just like this. This hello world was not existent in the source code. But when the JavaScript executed, it actually put in this HTML in here. Correct? Chalo. Let me just reiterate this very quickly. You guys would agree that there is nothing inside this div tag? Yes or no? I want each and every one of you to interact with yes and no. There is nothing inside this div tag. Yes and no? Nothing inside. Perfect. If I remove this JavaScript, you see that in my elements, there is this div tag. I have nothing inside this div tag. It just has some attributes, but there is nothing inside this div tag. Now, to make things interesting, I can execute the JavaScript and say, correct? I can execute this JavaScript and say ki get element by ID, and then I would say inner text. You saw that I did that dynamically. It wasn't there when the page loaded. But somehow I ran some code, I ran some JavaScript, I ran some magic, and it was there. Understood? Simple. Is this understood to everyone? So in a nutshell, guys, in a nutshell, this is what React does. React as a library, this is what React does. Now what we'll do is we'll see it from how exactly React does this. So let's come on to this point of dynamic rendering. Up until now, what I was doing is, if I wanted to add a h1 tag, I would do something like this. I would get the element app, and then I would append the HTML which contains the h1 tag. Yes. So now if I just go ahead and say you would see that again in this page source there was nothing inside this div tag. There was nothing inside this div tag, but the moment this JavaScript executed, it appended the h1 tag, and now my div tag has this h1. Pretty simple. It is dynamic in nature. I'm creating these tags dynamically, and maybe I can just take that if the user is on a mobile, I would append some other elements. If the user is on some other device, I would append some other elements. Pretty simple. Let's see how React does this. In React, since we are appending elements, just a second, guys. Let me block. Okay. In React, since we are appending elements, what we do is we create the elements first. And if you guys must have noticed or remember, I told you guys, right, that every node has three things. Every node has a tag name. Every node has attributes and children. Now, can't you see that whenever I'm creating elements, I need to give 3 arguments? Whenever I'm creating any element, I need 3 exact arguments, which are the tag name, the attributes, and the children. In this case, the children is just a string. And understood this? Simple. So this way, this right here is what React provides us. This is just what React provides us. Whenever we say React is a library, this is actually what we mean. In a very simple sense, without any dependency, without any tools, while we are just using React, React provides us with these functions to create element and render them. Understood? But guys, don't you think this is like, why would we do this? Why would we write create element? Why would we write so much difficult, not good looking, not something that I would like to write? Again, I'm a very lazy person, so I would not like to write react.create element again and again and again. Understood? So there is a very, very interesting thing, very interesting tool that we're going to use. We call that tool Babel. Now, let's talk about Babel. And I guess you guys must have heard about one of these fancy words that have been floating around called JSX. Whenever someone talks about React, the first thing that comes is JSX. So you have to learn JSX, or you have to learn this. Again, why do we need to learn JSX? What is JSX? Let's see. So JSX is a transpiling. Let me just show you. Guys, how do we write tags? Let's just say if I ask you guys to define an h1 tag, how would you define an h1 tag? Quickly, very much quickly tell me. Simple. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to write h1 hello world. Now see what will happen. This Babel tool converted this syntax into react.create element. Now, how it does it, what is going on behind the scenes, what are all the plugins that I'm using, let's forget everything about that. Let's not worry about them. Let's not worry about plugins on all the tools. The only thing that we are focusing on, this is so simple. This is what I want. React is a library which provides me with create element function. React is a library which provides me with create element function, but I want to write the syntax which looks very similar to HTML. There is the gap. There is the bridge. Understood? And this is where tools like Babel, this is where tools like JSX comes into picture. Understood? Now, tell me yes and no. Do you think this is HTML? Do you think this is HTML? Yes or no? Do you think this is HTML? Guys, I'm really sorry to disappoint you. Really sorry to disappoint you. This is not HTML. This is not HTML. You have to think of it from a JavaScript perspective now. Okay? It is an HTML-like syntax in JavaScript. This code is JavaScript. I can do something like this. Do you think I can store, I can just write things like this in HTML? No, right? This is JavaScript. You can see that it converts into JavaScript. It is not HTML. It is JSX. Make sense? It looks very similar to HTML, but it is not HTML because we know that React as a library provided us with this very beautiful create element function. And now we just need to simplify this. Correct? 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 Let me give you guys another reason why this is not HTML. Guys, what do you think will happen if I write a tag like this? If I do something like this? Let me just write a simple code for you guys. Do you think I can write an A tag something like this? Do you think I can write an A tag something like this? So if I was talking about HTML, if I'm just talking about HTML and I do A tag, and I would just go to 5500 zero introduction. Okay. What would you notice is this A tag automatically got smaller case. My question to you guys, do you think HTML is case sensitive or not? Do you think HTML is case sensitive or not? Yes, if it is case sensitive. No, if it is not. HTML is not case sensitive. You saw it treated A and A as A. It treated A and A as A. So HTML is not case sensitive. Correct. But whenever I'm talking about JSX, it is actually case sensitive. Can you see? So what I've done is I've created two elements. I've created this hello world and then I have created this A tag. Can you see that there is a difference between these two create element calls? What is the difference you guys can see? In both of these create elements, what is the difference you can see? You can notice that H1 is in quotes, whereas this is not. In JSX, if I'm writing a uppercase tag, it should be my component. It should be something that I define. User defined tags are uppercase. Predefined HTML tags are lowercase. So if I write H1, it will just directly create an H1 component. And if I write capital A, it will call this function A that I've written above. It will call this function A. Got it? Simple. Perfect. Perfect. So now what we'll do is, let's just go to this after React world. And to make this a little simpler, to make this a little simpler, what we can essentially do is, or maybe, let's not. I'll tell you what. Let's talk about now. Talk about components, guys. Have you, whenever we are talking about React, whenever you have heard about React, whenever you are learning about React, did you guys listen to the word component, component design, components, whatnot, this, that. Let's see components in a very, very simple way. So let me just show you what a component would look like. Can you guys see that there is a function that I've defined, user? There is this user function that I've defined, and let's just look at it, what this function does. What do you think these two lines are doing? Just read the name of the functions. Just read the name of the function. What do you think these two lines are doing? It is creating an h1 tag and appending the string of my name. It is creating an h1 tag with the string Jatin Gatyal. Yes. Simple. Perfect. Next, what do you think this is doing? It is creating a paragraph tag. It is creating a p tag and appending, this is me, maybe, to it. What do you think these lines are doing? It is creating a div tag and it is appending the heading and paragraph that I created. You're seeing where this is going? I'm creating this tree one step at a time. I'm creating this DOM tree one step at a time. Perfect. And then I'm just returning this tree, and I'm just appending it to it. If I look at this code now, I will see that again. One thing, I guess we are past that. If I just go to page source, there is nothing inside this div. There is nothing inside this div. But when I run the JavaScript, I can see that it appended a heading tag. It appended a heading tag and it appended a p tag. Understood? Simple. So in a pretty simple sense, you can say that this is a user component. This is a user component. If I want to include this exact thing again and again, if I want to include this exact thing again and again, I can say something like this. This would append it. This would append this whole thing twice. This would append this whole thing twice. I don't have to write this again and again and again. I can append this as many times as I like. Benefit of components, correct? Reusable function, reusable component, but we are just looking at it in a reusability perspective, and I can see I can add it as many times as I want. So now what we can do is, I guess there are two things that everyone should remember now. You remember Babel? Everyone remembers Babel? We just talked about it. And second thing, you guys remember now the component. Perfect. So what I need to do is, there is something called as Babel standalone. So I can just run Babel in my browser as well. In that case, I just copied this script out. I copied this script out and I said that this JavaScript is text/Babel. So now I can write this user component like this. I can write this user component like this and append it here. Doesn't it look cool to you? We just discussed. Let's just reiterate. Can everyone see? Please tell me yes and no. Can everyone see the line that I've highlighted? Can everyone see the line that I've highlighted? You know that this H1 if I just even if I copy this out, if I copy out this, this H1, you would see that this would be converted into React.create element automatically. If I just copy this whole thing out, you would see that it would first create a div. Inside that div, in the children of that div, it would create an H1. Then it would create a P tag. Inside the children of H1, there would be Jatin. Inside the element of P, there would be, this is me. You can see that this code is automatically getting converted into this code. I can even, come on guys, like, replace this as well. Like, this should also work. If what I'm saying is correct, it should also work. And what you would notice is that I usually never lie. Sorry, it is two components. After React. See, it is still working. Correct. Chalo, that is simple. So now what we are pretty sure of is we can write it like this and Babel will automatically convert and we don't have to worry about that. Everything will be working on its own. Perfect. Chalo, now you can see how powerful the syntax of components is. React, the moment I said that, the uppercase tags are user defined. The uppercase tags are user defined. That is the most powerful thing about this component architecture. I can create many such tags. I just created a user tag and I am using it anywhere I want. This is a component, right? This right here is a component. So now what we can say is, this is a tag, this is a component. Tag, component, tag, component. Pretty simple, pretty, crazy. Does it work? Obviously it does. Now you can check it out. Guys, again, we are focusing on just React. We are not focusing on NPM. We are not focusing on Node. We are just focusing on React right now. And currently we were only talking about, just to reiterate, we only talked about how React dynamically renders. And secondly, I can reuse these components as well. Correct? Are these two things very, very clear? I haven't discussed anything else other than basic rendering and component reuse. Understood? Simple. Liked it? Chalo. Okay. Lastly, guys, don't you think this component is pretty much useless? Like, why would I have the same name again and again and again and again? Why in the world? So let's talk about before React. I can create this function like this. I can create a function. Everyone knows how to define a function, please. Yes and no. Yes. In that case, I can just accept two arguments, name and bio. Based on that name and bio, I can create a heading, I can create a paragraph, I can append those things and return the element. Correct? Simple. And then I can just append these childs. In the end, what I would have is something very similar. Now, guys, focus on this thing. Focus on thing. We didn't have to reuse this. We didn't have to write this heading and para again and again. I just had to call this function, Rest everything is managed. Correct? Rest everything is managed. I just need to call this function again and again. Let's say I want to do this in React as well. Obviously, we would like to do it, right? Obviously, we would like to do it in React as well. In React, do you remember when we were talking about nodes, we were talking about attributes? Whenever we were talking about attributes. So essentially what you have to understand is, let me just draw a comparison for you. If I have a tag, if it is uppercase, it is a component. Correct? If it is uppercase, it is a component. And if it is lowercase, it would be converted into a HTML tag. HTML tag have attributes, whereas components have props or properties. Understood? Simple, right? So now let me just rename this, because again, I don't know what I was thinking. This is a mistake. So it should not be attributes. It should be props. Right? Don't you think this is a very, very simple code? Compare it to before React. This is humongous. This is humongous. This is readable. This is simple. This is like, wow. No. And while I'm doing this, I can just define these props, something like this. Again, let me just do one thing for you guys. Let me parse this. Let me run. Obviously, if I run this, you would see that it is running. After React. You would see that it is running. Again, guys, come on. My code sometimes works. When it is on my computer, it works. If it goes on your PC, then I cannot guarantee it. But in my PC, it works. But anyways, let me just copy this. Let me just copy this and see what people do. Don't you remember that I said the second arguments are the attributes or the properties? Exactly. So all the attributes that I set in this tag are the second argument, which are sent to this user component. If I had in that case, it would just append the children as well. Interesting, no? Interesting that everything ultimately boils down to these three attributes. That is the exact reason that, we discussed the HTML. We got on the same page. We visualized it as tree. We talked about these three attributes. We talked about what React does. And now we are able to understand everything about it. Simple, right? This code looks beautiful to me. Come on, guys. We started off where the React code was bad and before React code was simple. But moving on, we saw that before React code is very, very ugly, but this is pretty simple. Everyone, I'll share the Git link for it. Don't worry about that. For now, let's focus on the topic at hand. Okay. Chalo, let's talk about now. Guys, don't you think it is important? Don't you think it is important to have state management? Don't you think it is important to have state management? Let's just say I'm creating a simple counting app. I press, it should increment. Let's talk about that. So what I did is I created a component. Everyone understands what these two lines do? Simple. It creates an H1 tag and it sets the inner text to be the state. Everyone is, at least if you don't know the syntax, just by reading the code, you can see that it is creating an element button. It is adding the inner text increment. It is adding a event listener click. So whenever I click, this is what will happen. Simple. So just by looking at the logic, what I know is I created an H1 tag with this counter. I created a button with the increment as the value. Whenever I click the button, I increment the counter and update the inner text. Pretty simple. That is how I will implement this. Then I just appended them and let's see how it looks. Localhost 5500 for what is state, right? State before React. What you can see is I have this very simple UI. Very simple UI. I can click on increment and it will increment. What I can also see is in my console, there will be a variable called state. Which I created right here. I am updating this variable as well. Simple, right? Kusum, let's forget about state. Let's just say, let me even call it what? State ki jagah something. Yep. Let's even call it something. I maybe broke something. So I'll just replace state with something. Now, even still it is working, right? And I can just see that something is increasing as well. It does not matter what the variable name is. What matter is I'm just keeping this value. I'm just updating this value as well. I'm keeping track of it, which is important. But don't you think that no, this will become very, very complex. Let's just say I am building something like Scalar. I'm building this platform that you are looking at right now. Imagine building this with this code. Just to implement the increment, I have to write so much. Writing this platform would be a huge, huge headache. Secondly, don't you think that this count should only exist inside this function? Don't you think that this count should only exist inside this function? It should not be a global scope. I am only using this counter inside it. It should be inside this function. There is a lot of things that becomes complex when we are writing bigger application. To do that, React said that, come on guys, I'll manage it for you. I will manage it for you. When the moment I say use state, React returns me two things. One is count and another is set count. How can I get the current value? The current value will be in this count. The function to update the value will be here. So I guess in H1, I'm displaying count. In button, I'm just setting count to count plus 1. Simple, right? Awesome. So in a very let me just reiterate this very quickly, that React provides us with something called as use state. In use state, React will automatically keep track of this count. And then I have this another function to update it. So I said that whenever the button is clicked, I will update it. Acha, guys. On a very side note, don't you think that this is not, I am not able to understand what is going on here. Like button.add-event-listener.click, ugly. On a side note, forget about state for a while. Don't you think this on click is pretty awesome? Like I just have to say on click and run this function. Wow, it works. Straightforward, readable, understandable. So this is thanks to JSX. Correct. So obviously, like if I would go ahead, I would say after React, I would have the pretty similar application which will be running just fine. Where is the set count function defined? It is not defined. I can just name it anything. Okay, guys. This function, React useState function, returned me two things. Getter and setter. How to get the value, how to set the value. I named the getter count. I named the setter set count. Simple. Now, if you want to know how this works, like how this use state works, so who all are little advanced people here who already know React? Yes or no? All the advanced people. Acha, so for all of you guys, I have a question. Do you know how does use state work? Anyone? I'm not going to show you, but do you know how does use state work? Folks, no? So actually, this use state creates your array. So basically, every time this function is executed, a use state is added, there is an array created, and your state is kept in that array, and this counter will re-render in that same index, and that value will be picked up from the array. So again, I might share you guys some notes on that after the lecture ends. I'll share you guys some very interesting notes about that. Guys, again, this is a little difficult to understand. So what I'll do is I'll just share you guys the notes for it. You'll enjoy it. If you know React, you are gonna love it. That's something that I can assure. Chalo. Finally, guys, I guess you guys enjoyed a little bit about the introduction of React. Chalo, very quickly, this is all we need, and we're going to take a little break in a while. Abhi nahi le rahe break. We're going to take a little break in a while. Before that, let me just say ki obviously, you know, we are going to build a Wordle. Have you guys ever heard of Wordle? Anyone ever heard of Wordle? No. Why, guys? Why? So, Wordle is basically this game that New York Times invented. All you have to do is basically there will always be a 5-letter word, and you have to guess what the word is. So maybe I can just say A, E, I, O, U, just to know what the vowels, not in word list, okay? I would say forgo. So this tells me that I'm very bad at Wordle. this tells me that I'm very bad at Wordle. Got it? So yeah, again, it is a very interesting game. Ooh, you guys give very nice suggestions, guys. Interesting. But anyways, so the point is that this is the game that we'll be building. What we'll do is, this is the game that we'll build, and hopefully it would be very, very interesting. Arey guys, you already know today's Wordle. Don't tell me. Come on, guys. That was not good. That was cheating, actually. But the point is, we'll be writing this on our own. We'll write our own version of Wordle. And everyone, you guys must be here to become engineers. Yes, you guys must be here to know what a engineer's world looks like. You want to actually write code. You want to actually build applications. Correct. In that case, I'm going to take you through a journey of how I build things. So usually whenever we are given a project, whenever we are given some task, whenever something is assigned to us as an engineer, I'll just take you through how usually it looks like and what are the decisions we make and how are those decisions important. Interesting? Chalo, guys, we have 10 minutes. We have a little bit of time. If you guys have any doubts, please ask them. Please put them in the questions tab. I'll just address a few of them and then we'll move on to maybe a little bit of a break. Okay, just please put your doubts in the questions tab. Let's just discuss them. Okay, someone added React.js versus Vue.js versus Angular. How to choose between these three and what to invent? Krishna, I would answer it this way: ki my parents have a startup called Study Abacus, and in that I wanted to build a examination portal. I am teaching you guys React. I have written Vue.js in coding blocks. I have written Angular.js for some freelancing projects. Still, I decided to write this in a framework called Ember. There is a framework called Ember.js. I wrote this application in Ember.js. So the point is, whatever you know, whatever you feel is comfortable in that case, whatever framework you think is gonna, maintain, you'll be able to maintain for a while, is one thing that you should choose. That's how I'll put it. There is no, it is like comparing apples and oranges. Okay, anyone else? Okay, there are a lot of doubts. Let me just take. Use state 0. Okay. Is this function takes any other argument too? So there should no, it just takes the starting value as an argument. Like whenever I'm initializing the state, what should be the starting value? If you remember, in my before React, I initialize this value with 0. So that is something very similar I would like to do in React as well. That is why I initialized it in 0. Okay, guys, I might be able to only take random questions, but still I would love to. Come on, guys, in the questions now. Why are we using Babel? Babel is used to again convert that JSX. Babel is a transpiler, JSX is a plugin, and it converts that. So it just makes it easy. Okay, questions. How do I sort it out? Recently asked. Why is state change? What is use state hook? Actually, the use state hooks just keeps track of this value. You can see what the current value is in count, and you can update that value using set count. So that is what use state does. It just keeps track of the value. What do you think this is doing? What do you think this is doing? It is keeping track of the value. Guys. I think we missed something. We missed one thing. Can you guys notice that when I set count here, When I was setting count here, when I was incrementing the count here, I updated the display as well. I updated this component, this tag as well. Yes or no? Yes or no? But don't you think I didn't do any such thing here? React automatically saw that the state updated. React automatically saw that the state updated and it re-rendered the count. Interesting, no? Chalo. How to master React JS? I would say don't sleep, don't eat, don't do anything else, but just learn, read React, go to GitHub repository, just read through the whole source code. But we all have to agree that is not possible. So to actually master React or for any framework or library for that matter, just start practicing. Just start building projects, just start practicing for the projects, and that would be more than enough. Start having a goal in mind. Key, I want to build this application by hook or by crook. Maybe I would be copying a lot of source code from Stack Overflow. Does not matter. Build it on React. Have a goal in mind, and project-based learning usually helps a lot. Okay, sir, I'm a total beginner. Please do teach me from. So I want to contribute to Hacktoberfest also. I really want to learn full stack. Vishal, ठीक these are pretty basics, but what you do have to realize is this is just a 3-hour masterclass, and in Hacktoberfest you will be on your own for a very long time. So to learn that, learn those now. Really sorry. So to learn those, I would say ki you have to, now go out in the world. Now it is your responsibility to go out in the world with all the context you have learned. Guys, don't you agree that the very least that has happened today, after this session, you would at least know a lot of terminologies. You at least know ki this is what exists in the React. To the very least, you know the terminologies, you know the keywords to Google to. You can go to Google and search for correct things. That is more important. So now again, this will be your homework. If you want to participate in competitions like Hacktoberfest, maybe GSOC, then yes, you have to start practicing things. Maybe project-based learning. What is the best debugging practice and development practices? Oh, that's a very interesting question. For debugging practices, I would say set up a debugger. So let me just show you one very interesting thing. Are you guys ready to see one very interesting thing about debugging? Yes or no? So what you can do is inside your function, you can write debugger in JavaScript. You can write debugger, and you would see it. Your execution of JavaScript will stop at this debugger. You can see what the value of count is. It will be 0. And then you can continue this. Got it? Then if I increment, it will happen again. Got it? Interesting, right? So by just adding this debugger statement, your browser will stop right there and then. So these practices will help you a lot. Chalo, guys, do you really want to know how these applications are actually used in the real world? You guys must be interested in that, right? Yes. Chalo, let me just show you a little bit of an example that I was very recently working on. I was very recently working on a few of those things. Chalo, so recently I was working with this application, and rather, where is that link? So yeah, this is the application that I was working with. Let me just share the link with you as well. So what happens is whenever we are talking about these applications, we have to open these applications differently in different devices. So let's just say if I'm opening this device in, let's just say iPhone SE, it will look different. If I'm opening this in browser, actually it should be, I guess, get dot. If I'm opening this in browser, it looks different. If I'm opening this in mobile, yeah. If I'm opening this in mobile, it is running different. So it is very similar. Like all of these codes and all of this, it is not just about responsiveness. Sometimes responsiveness means how your application is scaling to the screen size, whereas in here I'm making decisions what to render. So do you know how I used React? Do you know how I used React? So basically, I used React in server-side rendering. Ever heard of something called as server-side rendering? Yes or no? Yes. And when you have heard of server-side rendering, for all of those who have you guys ever heard of something called as Next.js? Next.js. Yes. Let me tell you what server-side rendering is. Let's see if you guys understand React or not. Let's see if you guys understand React or not. I told you guys that whenever I'm trying to run a React application, I actually have a div tag and some JavaScript. Yes. We have two things. We have a div tag and a JavaScript. This JavaScript runs and it updates this div tag. This is what happens. You agree that this happens in the actually like the user's browser. It is the user browser which runs this JavaScript. What we can do is on the server, I have, you know, this div tag and this JavaScript. Why do I directly give this? Why do I directly return this, this response when I can run this JavaScript on the server as well? Won't you guys agree? Correct. There are a lot of benefits. So I, in this case right here, in case of this application, what I did is actually based on from where the user is executing, this is the only page that is returned to them. So that is what was very interesting for me. That is like user is not returned any obnoxious amount of HTML. They're not returned any obnoxious amount of JavaScript. They are just given what is required for them because I ran the JavaScript on the server. So this was one very interesting thing. So do you guys really want to try this app? Like, I guess you guys would be very interested. Yes, maybe. Actually, you can try this here. XK. Just a second, guys. So you can try this app actually here. So it has a lot of React inside it. It is written a lot in React, so you can try this out here. But I would like you guys to go through, I would like you guys to go through all the code. Like you go to Shuttle website, you go to Spinny website, and all of these different websites, And you should check out how are they rendering, how whether they are using React or not, what is their elements page look like, what is the their page source look like. You should study this. Would you guys do that? Hello. What we can do is, let's just take some more questions. What's the difference between framework and a library? Who all are always confused with this? What is a difference between a framework and a library? Everyone, right? Everyone. So in this case, I would just say library is as simple as just exposing some functions. Library is as simple as exposing some classes, exposing some objects that we can utilize. Can't you see that in React it exposed me just create element function? Yes. So this is why it is a library. In whenever we are talking about frameworks actually structure ask us to structure our code as well. Frameworks actually ask us to structure our code as well. So just to give you guys an example, first of all, this is not framework code. This is not framework code, but still, usually in framework, what you would see is framework would ask you guys to create your file in the components only, and it will automatically pick it from the components. So these are the kind of behavior that frameworks execute. So guys, I guess we have Stefan with us. So we're going to take a little bit of break, and over to you, Stefan.
Cool. Thanks so much. Thanks, Jatin, for taking us through that so well. Are you guys enjoying the session? Just give me a quick thumbs up if you are. Show some love to Jatin so he knows. Some of you I know will find it more interesting as the session goes on. But great to see so many of you enjoying it and really engaging with it. And I understand some of you aren't, but as the session goes on, I think you will sort of pick up and enjoy the session more. Cool. So the reason why we're just taking a short break is we see a lot of scalar questions that keep coming in very often. And we just want to sort of address that in 5 minutes and then pass it back to Jatin. Just a quick question that I have for folk here. One is, if you know who Scalar is, can you give me a thumbs up? And if you don't know who Scalar is, can you give me a thumbs down? So just 2 questions. If you know who Scalar is, cool. It's very interesting that it's literally 50-50 in terms of people who don't know who Scalar is. Cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly share my screen. Jatin, if you can maybe unshare your screen so I can share mine, that would be a bit helpful. Thanks, Jatin, for that. Cool. So I'm just sharing my screen. I think it is now visible to you. I'm going to quickly take you through what Scalar is about. So Scalar is an online edtech platform that helps working professionals to get and fast forward their careers through industry programs. And we have 2 programs that we sort of do. One is Scalar Academy and one is Scalar Data Science. So Scalar Academy is for software development, and data science is obviously self-explanatory. It's for folk who are interested in data science. So what is Academy, right? So what is the Scalar Academy program? So it's made up of 4 to 5 different constructs, but one key area is the live classes by top instructors like Jatin, who basically teach 3 times in a week, and cover very core competencies, which I'll cover with you, but data structures, system design, which is your high level design, low level design, CS fundamentals, and then key projects that we pick up with it. Few of our features, obviously, one of our key features is live classes and also mentorship, which is where you get, let's say somebody like Jatin, who is experienced, maybe suppose you're somebody with 3 years experience, you get a mentor who's like Jatin, who's let's say 5-6 years more experience than you, and he or the mentor helps you to sort of works with you through the program to help you in what sort of things you need to learn, what you need to pick up, what you don't need to focus on, so on and so forth. Who is the program for? It is for engineers, for folk who are in math background, for folk who are in service-based companies, in development roles, or in engineering roles in product-based companies. And there are 3 different tracks that we have. That is in beginner, intermediate, and advanced. What are the outcomes that we've received all to date? I think one is the average salary for folk who come post Scalar is 21 lakhs. Highest salary we've got is 1.7 CR. The average hike someone gets post Scaler is 126%, and the promotion rate is 31%. And these are the places where people work at. So we have like loads of people who come to Scaler to sort of hire from us. And one key thing is we don't allow companies to come to us who don't offer more than 7 LPA per year. So we don't allow such companies to even hire from Scaler, and we have a dedicated recruitment team round the clock. So this is what our typical batch profile is like. So pre-Scaler salary is 5 to 15 lakhs is where most of our folk come in. And then you can see the work experience and the roles that people come from. If you can see 0 to 2, 10 years, 5 to 10 years, 2.5 years is 27%. What is the curriculum? I get a lot of questions around the curriculum. So a beginner module is for 4 to 8 weeks. So if you're starting from scratch, mainly for non-coders. If you're somebody who's a basic coder, then you start with intermediate. That's another 8 weeks. And if you're advanced, then you get directly into the advanced module where you get into problem solving, DS with CS fundamentals, programming language, LLD and HLD as well. And then you pick up specializations, and then you get into your career support, so on and so forth. So 10 months for advanced, 14 months for somebody who's sort of starting out their career. What is the advantage? I think I already mentioned this: live classes, mentorship. We have teaching assistants round the clock who are there to ensure to solve questions. You can pause and restart your course at any point for up to 3 times. So if let's say you want to pause your course right now and you're going through it, you can pause it and restart a month later. The only reason why we allow that is because we start cohorts every month. And then you have 20,000 plus community of learners and alumni. So how do you enroll? You get into scaler.com, you get to a quick eval, and then you can sort of upskill. The quick evaluation is a 30-minute MCQ test, which focuses on aptitude and basic coding. And with this, you also get a very solid performance report. So if you're somebody who just wants to take the test just to get a performance report, you can also do that and just take part in this thing. So just going to quickly show you my screen as well in terms of the website and what you can do. So one is you come to the website and you can apply now to take part in the test. As I mentioned, you can go through the details over here, which gives you everything. So you can watch the recording later, you can pause your course, you decide your batch timing with your batchmates. These are the different tracks that we have on offer, and then the specializations and electives that you have as well. Now, just a quick note is if you're somebody who's wanting to, let's say, have a conversation with an alumni, you can explore our alumni. Let's say you're somebody who is working in a service company and you want to see somebody who's moved to a tech giant, let's say with 2 to 5 years experience, you can just use this tool. You can take a look over here, and then you'll be able to check out who has moved. So let's say this particular Anuj has moved from Wipro to Amazon, Akash has moved from TCS to Adobe, and you can just check with them, and then you can go ahead and connect with them directly on LinkedIn and also just chat with them one-on-one. So that sort of helps you to engage with folk who are there in Scaler, and if you want to have a conversation and understand how they've sort of gone through. These are our instructors. So Anshuman Singh is the co-founder of Scaler, the ex-tech team lead behind Facebook Messenger. He worked directly with Mark Zuckerberg, so he's been very influential and one of the key faces in terms of defining the curriculum, considering he's worked in the best or highest places of Silicon Valley, and various other instructors of ours are there, the mentors as well that you get to see. And then this is the sort of peer group that you get, the people who you are able to, the alumni and the people who you'll be engaging with. So you get information on job openings, as you can see, backend developer, all the different roles keep coming. You get authentic interview experiences. So you can see like DS round was 1, DS round 2, linked list, what all was asked in that. And then you get, if you're interested in competitive coding and other major announcements. One key area about us is our career services. So we have a dedicated recruiter team and 100 plus employer partner. As I mentioned, we don't invite companies who offer anything less than 7 LPA to us. And so we allow you to practice mock interviews, job opportunities with the Scaler alumni, and then we help you with your resume and LinkedIn as well. So I hope that makes sense. Like I mentioned, you can just come here in case you're interested to start out, take 2 minutes to apply, and then do the 30-minute MCQ test in terms of just figuring out where you're based, and then we decide which track you can sort of go on. So I hope that made some amount of sense for those who are asking questions. Interestingly, we have one of our alumni as well, who is Bhargav. Bhargav, can you hear me? If I'm audible.
Yes, I can hear you.
Cool. Hi, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm good. Thanks for asking. How are you?
Good. So just for folk who are wondering, Bhargav is one of our alumni as well. We come to the fees, which I can see the questions are coming on. So Bhargav, when did you when did you enroll into Scalar, and what's your experience been like so far?
Yeah, so I joined Scalar, me being a 2019 pass out, and I graduated from a tier 2 college, SRM University, and that too from a non-CS background. I did my graduation in electronics, and I really wanted to get into the IT industry. So that is when I approached Scalar, and like trust me, I had no knowledge about data structures and algorithms. In fact, the funniest part is I didn't even know what a data structure was. I was to that level, and yeah, like I was working in Wipro back then when in November 2019. That's when I actually joined Scalar, and within a year, Scalar actually helped me get a job in DE Shaw. So that's where my first switch happened. Like in November 2020, I switched to DE Shaw, and I didn't stop there. And I was there with DE Shaw for 1.5 years, and recently, like 4 months back, I switched to Google. So this has been my journey.
Wow, so that's like quite a journey moving from the eShot to Google must have been quite hectic. So,
Yeah.
like, can you just high level? I think because we don't want to take too much of time and want to go back to React as well, and obviously they want to talk to alumni also to get an idea. So in terms of Scalar, obviously you decided to go ahead and Scalar. What are the core competencies that Scalar you think helped you with? So you alluded to data structures. Was there anything else that Scalar helped you to strengthen, and how did Scalar help you to do that? What was the process, so to
Yeah.
speak?
Scalar, although it is about data structures, the course, but I think it is a whole package on its own because all as I told you, although the Scalar course is about data structures, it talks to you about system design. It talks to you about the specialization. Like I took full stack development, wherein like I was taught about Node.js, React.js, MongoDB, etc. And I was even taught about computer science fundamentals, like computer networks, databases, etc. So like Scalar on the whole, I believe it goes through the entire career development of the candidate on the whole. And the best part is it is structured. It is very well structured. It is from scratch to the very depth. Okay, that is the best part because no other course on the internet did I actually see which was going through right from scratch. Because for a student like from now non-IT background, it was very difficult for me. But still, I would with a little bit of determination, I was able to do that. So and the other thing is we've got the best instructors as Scalar. Okay, like who have actually and not just teach you theory concepts like the professors in college, but they actually teach you practical concepts because they are from the tech giants. Like as Stephen himself told, like Anshuman is from Facebook. Like he was the man behind Messenger. So like yeah, getting to learn from those giants, you will definitely learn a lot, and you would definitely transform yourself, I would say.
Got it. Cool. And obviously now, the fees is obviously something which is a big thing, right, Bhargav? Before somebody takes that commitment to, put that money or, study before that. So how did you sort of navigate that? And in the hindsight, looking at the impact you've got in your career, would you say that was a wise decision by you? And
Definitely.
if yes, why? If you can sort of unpack that for folk wondering about it.
Okay, I'll be frank here. I had a package of 3.5 lakhs per annum in Wipro. Okay, I had never even thought that I would, like maybe after like 10 years of my career, I would have landed in my 20 lakh per annum job. But then, Scalar helped me get my first job, which paid me like 25 lakhs per annum. Okay, and not just about the package on its own, you learn a lot. You literally see yourself transform over the journey because the amount of learning that you get at Scalar, I bet on the fact that you will not get so much learning anywhere else. So that was the most important point for me. The money was not a important factor at all. But even for people who consider money to be an important factor, 3.5 lakhs to 25 lakhs, that was a 700% hike. Nobody actually believed that I got a 700% hike package. So like, but in Scalar, everything is possible. And like I didn't stop there as well. I landed in Google. So that again, was an incredible bounce from there as well.
Got it. Cool. Thanks so much for that and being honest, Bhargav. Being raw. I think that's very helpful, and I understand that we want to sort of go back and study and further look at React. But thanks so much for your time. Coming here and giving us these 10 minutes and sort of shedding that light and answering questions. So just for reference, I think for folk wondering what Bhargav was talking about the live classes, what we're doing right now with Jatin is exactly like an example of a live class that Scalar actually has. So you will be having 3 live classes like this every week, day in, day out. This sort of being grilled and learning and learning and learning. So I hope that as you're learning in the session, that gives you an example or a preamble into what Scalar is like. So in case now I know that we can't ask Bhargav every single question, but if you want to talk to somebody like Bhargav in a one-on-one conversation, I'll just quickly launch a poll for 45 seconds where you can have a conversation with one of our alumni like Bhargav and just sort of understand from them specifically what their journey was like. And Bhargav, you can maybe just say one thing since data structures. Can you rate yourself on data structures on 1 to 10 before Scalar and after Scalar on 1 to 10?
Okay, before Scalar, it was definitely a 0 because I didn't even know what a data structure was. So, and I would not categorize myself 10 on 10 in data structure because data structure is such a vast field that nobody can actually master it on. If I would call myself a 10 on 10, I would be, talking rubbish. So I would rate myself 8 on 10.
Got it. Cool. And what about system design? Pre-scalar system design and post-scalar system design?
Okay, pre-scalar, I didn't even know there was architecture in software industry, to be very frank. Like I thought, maybe like the experienced folks are more into, they're using their experience building more efficient products. That's it. But then I didn't know that there was something known as design and all. So again, a 0 pre-scalar and post-scalar, the second switch that I got 3 offers. One was from Amazon, one was from LiveSpace, the other was from Google, and all the 3 had system design. So definitely I cracked them and then only got the offers. So again, I would rate myself 7 or 8 on system design post-scalar.
Nice. Cool, man. Thanks so much for sharing that and very, very helpful. So in case the poll is going on, in case you want to talk to one of our counselors, also to know a bit more about the program, the pricing, any other things which are relevant. I see a lot of questions, but unfortunately can't take them up because we have to get back to React. The poll is currently ongoing and please do take part. You can say maybe later as well. That's perfectly fine. Cool. So Jatin, can you hear me?
Yep, Sivan, obviously, I'm here.
Cool. So we'll get back into the session. For folk who are asking, we're going to get started with the session. The recording, unfortunately, will not be available post the session. We allow all these masterclasses are free to watch live. The recordings, however, are completely free for learners who are, people who are enrolled into Scalar, they get the recording. So I hope that helps and that makes some sense. In terms of the fees for the program, the fees are 2.5 lakhs and the EMI start as low as 7,200 rupees a month. So those are based on financing options available. And you can talk to our counselors to get a bit more details in terms of what other options you have and the discounts, etc. that are available. Cool. So going to pass it back to Jatin. Jatin, thanks so much. And
thanks a lot, Stephen. Thanks a lot.
Chalo,
everyone ready to do React again? Everyone ready for the React part? Oh, no. Just so you guys know, I didn't have dinner. I was online. Come on, guys. I would have dinner when you guys would be going after the masterclass. Come on. Chalo. Anyways, guys. Let's now move on to the actual part of this session, wherein let's just very quickly recap what we studied. Very quickly recap. First of all, we understood that React can very smartly and dynamically render components using JavaScript. Yes or no? React can dynamically and very beautifully render components in JavaScript. Second, we understood that it takes advantage of the component API. Component API is I can just create functions which returns me some HTML or maybe some other tree. I can utilize this again and again so that I don't have to write some redundant code. Pretty simple, sounds nice as well. Then we talked about props. To make component architect API work, to actually make the full use of components, what I would do is I need to know the arguments as well. I might want to render a component differently than the other one. So I would do that using the arguments. Correct. Lastly, I talked about state. Whenever we are creating front end, we keep state at every point. State in a front end is kept at every small little point. Let me just show you how a state is managed. Can you see that there are two tabs here? This is also a state. This right here, things as simple as that are also a state. Let me just show you. So can you see that if I hover over a budget, a pop-up appears. This right here is also a UI state. Such very small little things are UI state. And when we have so much state to manage, we know that I want to manage the state in the components. And that is where the U state comes into picture. Pretty simple recap. Like, I guess everyone can now relate why we learned these exact concepts, like why these four things is something that we talked about. Simple. Chalo. Let's talk about Wordle. And as I said, the moment we started, the moment you get into a company, the moment we start working as an engineer in a company, the very first mistake that the beginners make, guys, please listen to it very carefully. The very first mistake that any beginner programmer makes is they say that I want to start this project from scratch. They always say that I want to start this project from scratch. Do you think that is possible always? No. You are given a project, you have to maintain it, you have to work on it, and then only you can actually build upon it. Correct? And do you think like in bigger startups, in the actual engineering jobs, maybe fewer down the line, do you think you would be building this? Let's just take let's take some example. Do you think you will be building this whole application on your own? No, right? Someone would be there to give you designs. Someone would be there for you to write CSS. Someone would be there to do some other thing. You might be doing just the UX. You might be just putting the pieces together. Correct? So that's what I want to show you. And for that, I've created this Wordle project. Inside this Wordle project, I already created a word row. So now, in my app.js, in word row, you can see that I'm taking one prop. Everyone can see that I'm taking one property. What this property is, word. Let me show you how this looks. So I would simply import it first. Guys, again, I'm just going to reiterate this if I haven't made this clear. Currently, we are talking about React and just trying to find out the nuances of it, the things that usually we don't understand or see whenever we are learning React. But at least after this, you would be able to search on the Google. So now what I will do is just start this project. So I've created this very, very simple project. Again, since I am a developer, since I was a developer, I just joined the company. They asked me to build this, to complete this Wordle project. Now, to complete this Wordle project, they said, sir, we knew CSS. We were very, very good at CSS. So we created this component for you, specially for you. I was very happy. Like, these guys did something for me, right? Come on. It was a very happy moment. So now, all I have to do is even someone wrote this logic to check the word as well. To check the word as well, the logic is also there. Since no one in the organization knew how to write React, they just knew how to write HTML, so they did this ugly little component. Now it is my duty to write React. And I'm not even kidding. This is actually how things go. You are given a lot of logic already written. You are given a lot of UI already made. And then you go ahead and implement that in a framework. Got it? So now let's just say ki, I'm going to take this as an example. So I have these three methods: backspace, enter, and word. So let's just say, guys, whenever I'm talking about a Wordle project, what do you think the state should be? What do you think? What do you think I should keep the track of? The letters, the words that I'm entering, the alphabets that I'm entering. Yes, correct. Correct. Keystrokes. Chalo. So what I will do is, first of all, I will just say const current word set current word react.use state. So don't you guys agree? Don't you guys agree that the moment I open up a Wordle game, the moment I open up a Wordle game, this right here is the first word that I'm guessing, the current word. This is the current word that I'm guessing, whatever I'm writing here. Yes or no? Yes. So this is the first thing that I have to keep track of. Yes. So that is why I created a state. That is why I created a state called current word. And guys, just to make one thing very clear, I have made some of the functions like key press. So like if someone presses a key and I have someone presses enter, someone presses backspace, that is already handled for you because this is out of scope. Like we are talking about React, not the JavaScript. Correct? Make sense? Come on, in 3 hours, we can only learn a limited thing. So I would rather focus on React. Chalo, anyways, with that out of the picture, I can even remove this. So let's just say someone enters the word, this function will execute. I have written this right here. I'll share this code obviously as well. If someone presses any alphabet, this code will execute. And what I would simply say is previous previous plus later. Usually in set state function, you can do two things. You can either give value or a function. This function will take previous as is. In this case, if I start typing this, simple, right? So guys, again, now you saw that we already had this component in place. We already had this props in place. And now I can easily just keep track of these words and do this. Correct? Chalo, let's move on to a little more logic. Let's try adding a little more logic to it. So what we'll do is, let's just now add a logic for backspace. So when I want to backspace, I essentially want to just remove the last word. This is a JavaScript way of removing the last word. That's how I would do it. Aditya, previous is not defined, but this right here is a function. This is a function that I'm passing. And in whenever in setters, a function, the previous value will be given to me and I should return a new value. It's a lambda function, correct? So now what I can essentially do is, I can press backspace and I can see what my word is. So Ojal, slice means that it will just remove the last letter. This means that it will remove the last letter. And by the way, the components look something like this. Again, guys, you will get the code for this. Get the code for this. Acha, so if if I don't have any last word, like if the string is empty, if there is no words, don't you think that this previous will be empty and I cannot remove anything? Simple, right? Now comes the tricky part. Now comes the very tricky part. We have done word, we have done this, we have done all of these stuff. What we now have to do is actually check whether I have basically I have to now display whether the word that I've written is correct or not. What I have is the word of the day is forgo. I just taking this as an example. I'm taking that word of the day is forgo. Now what I have to do is I have to check if I'm writing something like this. If I'm writing something like this, it should check whether it is how close it is to forgo. Yes. Correct. Should we try that? Yes or no? Guys, be a little more active. Come on. Awesome. So let's just make a few very quick changes. I guess since this is uppercase, so what we'll do is now when I add new words, these will be uppercase. Lastly, what I will do is, guys, now think of it from the Wordle's perspective. When I entered the first word and I clicked enter, guys, when I wrote the first word and I clicked enter, it went into the guesses. Like it is a different state now. If I open Wordle again and I type alpha or maybe if I'm guys, think of it this, let's just change our perspective and see if I'm writing Jatin, I'm removing something, I'm pressing backspace, I'm doing this. This is the current guess. This is the current guess, yes or no? This is one state. This is one state that it is current guess. And now if I just say forgo. Once I press enter, the moment I press enter, don't you think that it goes into the list of previous guesses? Now it is a different state. My current guess is this one. Forgo is gone, is now part of a previous state, which is called previous guesses. Agreed? Is this logic understood? Again, since we are programmers, since we are UX developers right now, we have to think of the in terms of state now. Just to repeat, can you see that there are two things here? One thing is the current word, which I'm typing and deleting right now. Correct? The second thing is the previous guesses that I've made, which is forgo or maybe give me a 5-letter word, anyone. I cannot come up with a 5-letter word. Train. Train is a guess. Can't. All three of these are previous guesses. Correct? While this Jatin is still the current guess that I'm writing, that I'm creating. Understood? So that is what we'll do. Now, for the current guess, what we can see is that our application is able to write the words and remove the words. I can write, remove, write, remove, write, remove. Current guess is working fine. Now what we have to do is we have to create the array of previous guesses. Agreed? We have to create the array of previous guesses. The moment someone presses enter, I want to append to that array. Understood? So let's try to do that. Let's just say I will create const guesses. Okay, I will just say guesses. State. It will be an array, correct? Correct. Chalo. Moving on. Now, the moment someone presses enter, the first thing I want to do is check. I cannot take any word. I cannot take any word which is not 5 characters long. The game is all about making the words 5 characters long. So this is the first check. Obviously, this will be the first, right? The next thing that I will do is, if it is correct, let me just say set guesses. I will have the previous and the current word. So now, in this case, what I'm doing essentially is I'm creating a new list. I'm creating a new array with all the previous elements and the current word. With all the previous elements and the current word. Okay? Guys, again, can you guys trust me on this? This is how the code works. I'm just writing all the previous elements. This is JavaScript's magic. Now, what I can essentially say is guesses.map guess and so I will take all the guesses and I will render the component according to it. Vishesh, map will basically it will go through all the elements in the array, and it will for every element it will return this element. Again, JSX, it will loop through all the elements and it will return the word row. So now if I say Jatin, press enter. Oops, nothing happens. I guess there is some error. Oh, I'll have to. Again, some of the few things we'll have to skip over in this session, why it was not working. Rahul, I will say that these are just few of the things that we'll have to skip over. But anyways, you can see that now I'm able to create a list of previous guesses. I'm able to create a list of previous guesses. Now, all I have to do is just mark these words green and yellow. I just have to mark these words green and yellow. Sure, let's do that as well. In that case, now what I need to do is this word row component. This word row components needs to know. This word row components needs to know ki what whether this word is correct or not. Yes or no? This word row component needs to know that this is correct or not. So to do that, what I will do is I will just say, I will just take result maybe, and I'm gonna say, mm, so basically for every ith word, I'll just send in the result, and I actually have this word checker as well. So basically, it takes the guess, compares the letters, and checks whether it is green or yellow. Again, you will be able to better understand it once I share this. We just have a few more minutes left before we end. We are done with this. So what we can do is, I can actually pass. I can actually say result equal to check guess for guess is my guess and solution is the word of the day. So now based on that, what you would see is the Forgo would be coming in. Again, you would say ki I have done a lot of code. So yep, I have. You can see that these are coming in yellow, these are coming. So guys, again, now let's circle back. Let's circle back and discuss a few things that just happened while we were building the Wordle application. Everyone. Now I just need last 15 to 20 minutes of your focus. Can you guys do that? Can you guys give me last 15 and 20 minutes of your focus? Chalo. I guess, and obviously, you would agree that this code was pretty difficult. You guys had no context of this code. Yes or no? You guys had no context of this code. You guys had no context of who wrote these components, who wrote these functions. But guys, would you agree that when I was editing the app.js file, to the very least, you knew what I was doing. You guys knew that I was creating a state. You guys knew that I was using a component. You guys knew that I was iterating over a state. You guys knew that this would have been an on-click event. You guys knew how to update that I was updating a state. Don't you think in just a 3-hour session, this right here is more than enough? You guys have now a better understanding of React. You guys have now a better understanding of how this React works in the real life. You guys are now have a better understanding of, in real world, how do we develop such application? Correct? Chalo, I guess you guys are having a lot of doubts. So first of all, what I will do is, let me just share this repo with you so that you can play around. Let me just share this account with you. Sorry. Okay, so this would be React Bootcamp September 22. Would be a public repository. Then let me just quickly add this. Chalo, guys, let me just share you guys the repository for the today's code. Now, this is the time. This is the time you guys can ask me any questions, and then we'll move on to some of the quizzes for you guys. Chalo, push in on the questions tab. On the questions tab quickly. So difference between React and React Native. Actually, React is just this library. React Native uses React's API. So guys, what React Native does is basically it uses the React API. So rather than rendering on a browser, it renders on an Android or iOS device. So it uses the React API key, this create element API, to create the Android elements rather than creating the your browser elements. Every time whenever any state of a component gets updated, the entire components gets reevaluated. So when making side effects like API calls, how we can properly manage to use hooks to avoid unnecessary reevaluation of methods or unnecessary present component. Gyan Chandra, that is a very, very nice question. And I would say ki, just go through these hooks, and in this hooks, you would actually find some hooks like use memo. All React hooks. I guess it, hooks API reference. So there are hooks like use memo. There are hooks like use ref. So I would suggest, if you know React, if you are comfortable with React, do go through these hooks. These will really help you guys out. There's a new API again, the function API that the React has built. So this will really help you guys out. Please explain what is DOM. What is DOM? Acha, if I ask you guys, what do you think DOM is? Up until now, we have discussed a lot of things about front end. We have discussed a lot of things. So can you tell me what is DOM? Document object model, theek hai, but what is DOM?